Welcome to another episode of Driving with Slip. I am on the way home from work at a half day. Got to take care of the kids today. And I felt like this was a good time to just spell something out for everybody in Braves country. RELAX. Just like Aaron Rodgers said back in the day, relax. I feel like sometimes throughout this 162 game marathon, which this is a marathon, the baseball season is an absolute marathon, that fans, and I think this is fans of every fan base, so, I don't think this is just Braves fans, but fans overreact when their team gets an ass whooping. Sometimes great teams get ass whoopings, and the Braves got an absolute ass whooping, 12-0 on Monday. Over the 4-game series, which the Braves won the last 3 and won that series, not just tied, but won that 4-game series, the Braves outscored the Marlins 28-20. So over those 4-game stretch, the Braves scored 28 points and the Marlins scored 20. If I could do some simple math for you, that means that over those last 3 games, the Braves scored 28 points and allowed 8. This came on the back of great pitching by Sale. This came on the back of great pitching by Strider, as well as this came at the, on the back of Martin Perez doing his job and the offense waking up and having a comeback win on that Tuesday game. This is what happens when you have good teams. Sometimes it's not always going to look the greatest. Sometimes it's just not. However, more times than not, we have seen them play excellently. Some of the people that were cold for a little bit, that after being really hot, such as Olsen, cooled down just a little bit. Albies cooled down a lot of bit. Even Michael Harris had cooled down just a little bit, just a little bit, but he was still hitting the ball hard. I think Olsen and Michael Harris were still hitting the ball hard. I think Albies struggled consistently hitting the ball hard, and when Albies was hitting the ball hard, he was, having deep flyouts. And that's what was happening, I would say, over that stretch where the Braves offense was kind of struggling, even though they were still winning games. Albies is back to swinging and hitting good singles. Albies is hitting well when he's hitting singles, because those extra base hits are going to come. Matt Olson simplifying his swing a little bit. It seems like he's going for more line drives again, because I think he realized that he kind of got off of what he was doing, and he's hitting a lot more ground balls and line drives, some straight at people, but those ground balls are getting through, and he's getting a little bit more hits, and that's where that home run power is going to come back. He continues to have the power because he's hitting the ball 108, 110 when he's hitting those ground balls and line drives. However, the home run is when you're just a little bit early. So I think he's still swinging the bat really well. Michael Harris hit 2 home runs to dead center in the last game of the series after hitting another home run in the 3rd game of the series. Dead center. These were not any jokes. And I'll tell you about that home run that Michael Harris hit on that Wednesday game. That ball was a line drive that kept carrying a long ways. It was beautiful to swing. Michael Harris has such a beautiful swing, and his contact is so loud and powerful when he's on. And I tell you, this season, he is on. You know, I think people are worried about, is he going to be susceptible to that slider or breaking ball? And he still is, but he's not as much as he was at the previous season. And I think everybody's going to fall, victim to a good curveball and slider. These are major league pitchers. However, Michael Harris, more times than not at this point, is laying off of those pitches and waiting to get his pitch in those at-bats. I think the biggest thing between this year and last year, I think that mainly the beginning of the season last year, because I think Michael Harris started to turn it around with his approach in the last quarter of that season in 2025, is that he changed his approach. He had a healthier approach where he was trying to get his balls to drive, and he wasn't just trying to drive everything. Now, does Michael Harris have the ability to drive everything? Absolutely. But he doesn't need to. And when he's getting his pitches to drive, this is what you see. You see amazing power, loud power to dead center that's going 420, 430 feet on a line. And it's just great to see. Michael Harris, when he's doing this, is a fun player to watch. Someone else that's been really good over, I'd say, the past 13 games is Mike Yastrzemski. He is starting to hit like the guy that we wanted to platoon and be a bench bat for the outfield. And, you know, he was kind of thrust into a little bit more of a role with that Dan Jurgensen profile taking steroids again, is making his nuts smaller again. I don't know why people do that. You're going to get caught, weak boy. That's such a small boy thing to do. But anyway, Yastrzemski is hitting a lot more line drives. And he's starting to get a little bit of his home run stroke back. And when these things start to happen, it starts to become contagious. And his confidence is building up a lot. You can tell by the way that he's going about at bats. Even the ways when he's going, when he's like striking out looking, because there's been a few times, it's been like borderline pitches. And, you know, you can tell when someone is confident based on what happens when they strike out. You know when they're like, damn, I just missed that, versus, oh my God, how did I miss that? You know when someone tips the cap and like, all right, that was a good pitch right at the edge. I'll give you that one, but don't mess up next time because I'm gonna come after you. There's a different look in Yastrzemski's eye in the way that he's approaching it, that I think it's going to continue to build up his confidence, and it's going to allow him to, you know, I don't think he's going to become an everyday player per se, but he's going to get more opportunities against more pitchers, because at some point, I was concerned of just like, is he even going to get at bats over right-handed pitchers when Ha-Seong Kim comes back? And right now he's showing that he can. This allows Mauricio Dubon to get a little bit of rest, as well as it allows Ha-Seong Kim to get a little bit of rest because he's struggling. And everybody knows he's struggling, and he'll get there. You know, he had a very rushed spring training. And I believe that, he's going to get his bat after a little bit. It's just going to take a little time for him to get on the major league level that he needs to be. It's just a shame that, he was put in a situation where he had to come up just a little bit sooner than we wanted him to. But there's so many other hitters in this lineup that are hitting well that it allows for other hitters to try to find that swing. It lessens the pressure off of those hitters, knowing that they don't have to be the one to either turn the whole offense around or carry an offense. That sometimes you have to depend on your offense to carry you and your teammates to carry you and pick you up to try to get and find your swing. And I feel like this Braves team, we hear it all the time in their interviews with the Braves Vision commentators and analysts and sideline reporters, that is such a close-knit team, that everybody is there for one another. There aren't any egos in that locker room. And when that happens, that just allows for people to be able to go into slumps and get out of slumps. I think that's what you're seeing a lot within Austin Riley. We know he doesn't feel good that he's going lower in the order. But one reason that he's able to go lower in the order is because he's got people picking him up. He's got people like Michael Harris picking him up after Michael Harris had a struggle season. People like Dom Smith picking him up when we didn't expect Dom Smith to be doing the things that he's doing. Now, Dom Smith is cooling off just a little bit, but what he is providing for this Braves team right now is so much more than what anybody expected. And I feel like he needs more consistent at bats, with the injuries. I think his average and his ability to get hits lowered just a little bit because he wasn't getting those consistent at bats. I do think that being a DH and being able to get in a rhythm of the game, knowing that you have, 2-3 at bats in a game rather than one where you may just be a pinch hitter, that helps the rhythm of the game and can help DHs succeed a little bit more within their role. Because Dom Smith hasn't been able to, he's not going to get on the field at first base. Not with Olsen there. He's not going to be in the outfield. So DH is where he's going to be hitting. And, we also, hopefully we get everybody back healthy so that he can be in that DH role consistently ongoing, because when his bat is going, it's just consistent and it really helps lengthen this Braves offense. Last thing I want to talk about is just Mauricio Dubon. I mean, his defense is absolutely fantastic. He's an absolute gem of a person. He's an absolute gem of a player. And one thing that I love, and I'm so happy that he's doing this for this Braves team, especially when the Braves struggled to do this in the previous years, is that when there are runners in scoring position, which he's hitting almost 300 and leads the MLB in average with runners in scoring position, which is absolutely a crazy number, is that he's able to put the ball in play when the ball needs to be put in play. That doesn't mean he's always going to get a hit, but the fact that he is able to make that consistent contact and that he's able to get that ball in play and have those competitive at bats where it's really, really tough to strike him out no matter where you're throwing the ball. That is something that the Braves did not have last year. And I feel like the Braves hadn't had that that consistency with a lot of their players, were they able to consistently put that ball in play in those less than 2-out situations where you got to move the runner. And Mauricio Dubon has excelled at that. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep that up in terms of his average, but it's not just the average that matters. It's about whether or not you're putting that ball in play. I'm excited to see what these Braves are going to do against these Nationals as the Nationals come into the town for a 3-game set. This Nationals team knows how to hit. They don't know how to pitch. So what that means is, more likely than not, the Braves got to come with their A-game hitting, because expect this Nationals team to score some runs. Because I think you got Elder on Friday. You have the J.R. Ritchie spot on Saturday, so I don't know who's going there. And then you got Martin Perez theoretically going on that Sunday game. Which means that you're not going to have your top 2 pitchers. We can say that Elder is a top 2 pitcher on the Braves, but I think Sale and Strider are better, even though Elder's having a great season. But you're definitely it doesn't matter about that. The Nationals will be facing the bottom 2 options of the Braves. And now Martin Perez has pitched really well. I think his veteran presence has done amazing work in the role that he's played. He's done everything that's been asked of him. However, who knows who's going to be this next person called up to make that start. Is it going to be Carlos Carrasco? I don't anticipate that it's going to be Ronaldo Lopez. I don't anticipate that it's going to be Fuentes. So we'll see what happens. I'm definitely excited to see what happens. We'll definitely be back talking to you soon. Maybe even, later tonight after we see what happens in this first game against the Nationals. I feel really good about the Braves, even though we know where those flaws are. I'm not saying that those flaws have been patched just because they've, won these 3 games. I am saying that we do have to relax and allow this team to perform like they can. And once that trade season starts, and once people start separating themselves from pretenders and contenders, and we're going to be able to actually make those moves for people, we'll see how this Braves bullpen, bench, maybe in the field is going to be constructed for this long run, and hopefully for a championship run, because that's what every team is trying to go for. But goodness, I'm excited. It's good talking to y'all. As always, don't slip.